Cheat Code Support Strategist by My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down. Read by Rat Overlord. Chapter 46. Wisp. Summary. Uraraka can't stay still. Ochako looked at Midoriya for a long moment, then promptly burst into tears. Oh, thanks goodness! Please tell me you know what's going on! Midoriya gave her a sheepish smile as he sat down on the bed beside her. Not yet, but we're gonna figure it out together, okay? We can do this! Ochako took a deep breath and wiped her eyes. Yeah, we can do this. What do you need to know? Midoriya grabbed a notebook out of his pocket and opened it to a fresh page. Alright, so first of all, do you know where you are? Well, you're interning on Island, so... Ochako thought for a moment. Well, either I'm on Island somehow, or you came back early. Midoriya laughed. It's the first one. Do you know how you got here? Was there a villain involved? No, I was at Gunhead's agency, so there wasn't a villain. Ochako racked her brain. 1 minute I was sparring the Shinso, and... Suddenly, she felt gravity shift again, but not as intensely as it had the last time, and she was still in the hospital when it righted itself just in time for her to throw up again. Thankfully, the nurses had had the foresight to put a tub beside the bed, and Midoriya just tossed a notebook out of the splash zone and rubbed her back until she was finished. Ugh! Ochako wiped her mouth. I'm sorry, that was gross. Well, you're suffering from quirk exhaustion, Midoriya reminded her. Well, what else do you remember? Well, it was kind of like what happened just now. Ochako grimaced. I was fine until this morning, but then I got really dizzy and all of a sudden I was someplace else. Isuku made a note of something. Any other details? What were you trying to do during the spar? What were you thinking about, etc.? Ochako thought for a moment. I mean, in the spar, I was just trying to keep Shinso from pinning me, but I was also thinking about how once internships were over, I needed to talk to Mei about... Isuku jerked back in surprise as Uraraka just disappeared into thin air. Sure, there were slight traces of some sort of light, but mostly she simply blinked out of existence, exactly like Shinso had described. It was a weird sight, and he almost didn't believe his eyes, but at least now he could form some theories. Dr. Shield. He looked up from his notebook. You wouldn't happen to have any equipment for measuring gravitational fields on this island, would you? The moment Ochako felt gravity shift again, she tensed. Even though she'd half been expecting it this time, the bed disappearing out from under her was still a shock, and she didn't have nearly enough time to get her feet under her before she was falling hard on the floor. Seriously? Which of you beautiful babies decided to fall off the... Mei circled the table and she stopped and blinked when she saw Ochako on the floor, the gesture looking even more strange with the way her eyes were magnified underneath her goggles. Oh, hi Gravity Girl! I didn't see you come in! You're supposed to be missing, so how did you get all the way out here? Ochako groaned and flopped down on the floor. Yeah, that's what I'd like to know too. Mei hummed. Well, as long as you're here, you may as well earn your keep. I need an extra set of hands. Ochako nodded and groaned as she stood up. She still felt unbearably nauseous, but she didn't feel like she was going to lose what was left of her breakfast anymore, so that was a positive. Maybe it was because she didn't go as far this time? But, of course, that then brought up the question of why she'd gone at all, and Ochako wasn't really sure she wanted the answer to that. Mei handed her what looked like a handle of a lightsaber. Just hold that part steady, alright? Ochako nodded again and let Mei just do her thing, but her thoughts started to spiral again and she bit her lip nervously as she remembered why she'd been thinking about Mei in the first place. Hatsume, do you mind if I ask you something? Sure, but Hatsume's too formal. Mei tightened another screw. I thought I told you to just call me Mei. Ochako half smiled. Yeah, why did you choose to go into support? Mei grinned. It's fun! Ochako frowned. And, is that why you want to have your own company, too? I could work for somebody else and still make cool stuff. Mei stuck out her tongue in disgust. But if I'm going to make these babies, I want everyone to know just who made them. It's branding. One day, I'm going to be famous for all these beautiful babies. Just you wait and see. But... Ochako struggled to find a polite way to phrase it before realizing that Mei probably didn't care. Isn't that kind of selfish? Yeah. Mei tightened something else on her device. So? Ochako stared at her. So? Mei cackled. A lot of people have this really big, stupid idea that being selfish is bad. Just like they think failure is bad, but failure is how you make wonderful babies. If being selfish helps motivate me to be an even better inventor, then why in the world wouldn't I want to do that? Huh. Ochako blinked a few times, feeling like the world had just shifted underneath her in a way that wasn't literal. I guess I never thought of it that way. That's because too many people limit themselves and don't give in to the best ideas, Mei declared, tightening one final screw and taking the device from Ochako. If something isn't helping, throw it out! And if something is helping, then make it a part of the design. Ochako smiled as Mei turned on her device, only to frown when nothing happened. Mei, however, just shrugged and threw the device over her shoulder. The original design was better. Back to the drawing board! Ochako laughed. If at first you don't succeed, then use that failure to fuel your next success! Mei returned with a wide grin. Hand me that wrench! Oh, and I'm glad you're all right, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Shinzo said you just went poof! Ochako groaned. I don't know, but before I came to talk to you, I was hoping that Midoriya could... The gravity shifted again, and Ochako had to resist the urge to scream in frustration as she found herself on a random street somewhere. She was just so done with this whole thing. She felt emotionally and physically exhausted, and she just wanted to stay still for a little while. Was that really just too much to ask? At least she was finally getting used to the sensation, though. Ochako still didn't know what was going on, but she was almost certain at this point that it was One for All's fault, even if she couldn't pinpoint how. Alright, so maybe trying to push all that power down until it blew up hadn't been the best idea, because her new quirk obviously wasn't letting her repress it anymore, considering that she could potentially end up halfway across the world with just a stray thought. Alright, how did I do this last time? Ochako grumbled. I was just thinking about Midoriya and... Gravity shifted, and Ochako felt a brief sense of pride until she looked around her new location, and Midoriya was nowhere to be seen. Ugh! You've got to be kidding me! Isuku popped his head into the lab. Hey, kind of weird question, but have you seen Uraraka? Mei looked up from her current project. Yeah, she just popped out. Of course. Isuku groaned. Did she give any clue of where she was going? Nope. Mei shrugged, then thought for a minute. But I think she was talking about you when she disappeared. Alright, that makes sense. Isuku scribbled a few things down in his notebook. Her quirk must be using people to anchor her when she warps, but the only question is which people. And, of course, where she ended up this time. If you were her anchor point, Isukin, Mei pointed out, then shouldn't she be with you? You'd think so, but no. Isuku jumped up to sit on the table. Her quirk uses gravity, but that's such a widespread force that she's probably only able to approximate her target. At least for now, that is. Mei hummed. I didn't even know that she could teleport. Neither did she. Isuku shook his head in amusement. I'm still trying to figure out why, but it's like her quirk got more powerful overnight, and now she's dealing with a new manifestation of it. It's really cool, but she hasn't had the time to develop the abilities, so she doesn't have any way to stop herself from warping. Or any way to predict where she'll end up, Mei finished. She pushed her project to the side and started grabbing more materials. Well, I can help with one of those. Dr. Shields smiled and lifted the tarp.
It's been a while since I had an excuse to dust off this old baby.
Melissa rolled her eyes. You do realize that you could take it out for a spin any time, right? You're just old and boring.
Is that the car you and All Might used during his study abroad?
Isiku's eyes were wide as he dissolved into muttering storms of facts.
The technology was state-of-the-art at the time and still holds up under today's standards. The engine alone is...
Come on, Izuku-kun, you can nerd out in the car! Mei grabbed him by the collar and hauled him into the back seat. The device in her hands was only mostly finished, but Dr. Shield had been tracking the gravitational fields around the island, and Uraraka's warps were becoming more frequent. So they needed to find her before she accidentally ended up in the water or something. Alright, Midoriya, it's your turn to navigate, Melissa said, strapping herself into the passenger seat as Dr. Shield started the car. You connected your laptop to the gravity sensors, right?
Yep,
Isiku said. I'm probably going to have to write a program to really track her, but for now, these readings will at least tell us when she moves and get us in the general ballpark of where she is.
Oh, she moved again. Head west!
Ochako sighed and tried not to think of anything at all as she made her way down the streets, too tired to pay attention to the weird look she was getting for wearing a full hospital gown in the middle of a city. At least it wasn't one of the ones that had an open back, but honestly, at this point, she just didn't care. Maybe if she just didn't think, she wouldn't find herself suddenly halfway across the city with no way of knowing where she'd end up. She passed a fast food place and only hesitated for a moment before muttering, "Screw it." An electronic bell chimed as she pushed open the door, and the look on the poor cashier's face when he saw her was way more funny than it had any right to be. But Ochako was just too tired to laugh, or even really care as she walked up to the counter. Hey, do you guys sell ginger ale?
Yes.
He looked her up and down, and Ochako knew she should be embarrassed, but she just found herself half wondering whether they'd turn her away for violating a no shoes, no shirt, no service policy, or whether they'd just roll with it. The cashier hesitated for another moment before meeting her eyes.
I'm assuming you don't have any money with you? She warped again!
Isiku yelled.
Ooh, she's closer this time! Oh, where to next, then?
Dr. Shield stopped the car, ready to double back if they needed to.
Oh, where is she? She's...
Isiku looked at the screen and his eyes widened.
She's 2 streets over! Great! We can cut through the alleyway!
Mei grabbed his hand, and Isiku had just enough presence of mind to set his laptop down before she was pulling him from the car and running towards the alleyway.
Wait!
Melissa called.
Shouldn't we? Sorry, we'll meet you back there.
Isiku yelled back. It was only a few seconds before they were running out onto the next street, which was more crowded than the one that they'd come from.
Excuse me, has anyone seen a girl in a hospital gown?
Ochako sipped at her soda and took a few deep breaths as she ignored the stares of the other patrons. She wasn't nearly as nauseous as she'd been when she first got to Island, and she could feel herself steadily regaining the energy, especially with the way that One For All was buzzing just underneath her skin. But she still wasn't used to it. It would have been nice if One For All came with an off switch, because the way that things were going, she would be having to shower in a bathing suit for the foreseeable future. She slumped further down into the hard plastic seat and took yet another sip, only partially sitting up when she heard the bell of the door chime.
Hey, Gravity Girl!
Mei grinned as she bounced up on her table.
Happy birthday!
But it's not my birthday. She stared at Mei in shocked confusion as she grabbed Ochako's arm and fastened something around her wrist.
Nope,
Mei confirmed.
But I got you something! That's a tracking bracelet. I'll make you a better one when we get back, but this little baby will keep us from having to chase you down again. We'll be able to see where you are even if you accidentally warp yourself to America.
Ochako shuddered. Oh God, I hope that doesn't happen.
Unfortunately, it's a possibility.
Isugu ran up to them, hands on his knees as he caught his breath.
But this way, even if it does, we'll be able to find you.
Okay, yeah, that'll be nice. Ochako nodded gratefully.
Thanks, Mei. Now come on! We gotta get back to the lab so I can get to work on my babies!
Mei said.
And not that the hospital gown isn't a statement piece, but we should probably get you some actual clothes. So come on, let's get going!
Ochako stood and stretched. Yes, please and thank you. The two gremlins led her outside, where a red sports car was waiting to pick her up. She recognized the driver from her unfortunate arrival, and he smiled when she slid into the back seat.
You must be Ochaku Uraraka, correct? It's nice to officially meet you. I'm David Shield, and this is my daughter, Melissa.
Ochaku grimaced. Sorry about,
Oh, no, don't worry about it.
Dr. Shield laughed.
Honestly, now that we know you're not an actual security threat and we figured out how you got in, it was more entertaining than anything else. Freaked us out a bit at first, but we're all good.
Well, I'm glad someone found it entertaining. Ochaku grumbled. I honestly wasn't expecting to learn how to teleport when I woke up this morning.
I know!
Everyone back in Japan was really... Isuku's eyes widened.
Wait, Mei, did you ever tell anyone that we found her?
Mei frowned.
No. I think I assumed that you had told them, and then I was too focused on the tracking bracelet to think about anything else.
I believe that our people were focused on making sure our security was up to date and incorporating a warning for gravitational shifts.
Dr. Shield scowled.
How did we forget that?
Didn't you ever call them, Midoriya? Melissa asked. Isuku groaned and put his head in his hands.
No, I was too busy trying to figure out the quirk science of how she was even warping. Oh my gosh, everyone's probably still freaking out.
Isuku shrugged and grabbed her phone.
Well, better late than never.
Shota wasn't doing well. All the teachers had been called in, and some of the more adept reporters were starting to realize that something was wrong. Uraraka's parents had been contacted and were with the police escort, but there wasn't a whole lot that they could tell them. Their daughter had been missing for over 4 hours now, and they still hadn't found a single lead. He, All Might, and Tsukauchi were all gathered together in Netsu's office, grimly combing through what meager evidence they could find as they came to terms with the fact that they had failed as teachers and as heroes. His phone rang, and he took one look at the caller ID before picking up.
Hatsume, please tell me you're safe. I really don't have the time or energy to deal with two.
Oh, I know,
Mei interrupted.
I thought you might want to know that we found your missing student.
Shota immediately sat up straight.
You found Uraraka? How did you even... Never mind. I'm putting on speakerphone. Where is she?
Mei cackled.
She's sitting right next to me. Say hi, Gravity Girl.
Uraraka's voice sounded tired, but she was there. Hi, Sensei. Sorry for worrying you. Netsu came closer to the phone.
Never mind that, young lady. Are you all right?
I'm tired and overused my quirk, but I'm already getting my energy back. Uraraka's voice echoed with a kind of forced cheerfulness.
Don't worry, I'm going to be fine.
I'm glad to hear it, Netsu said. Although, if you are with young Midoriya and Hatsume, then...
Yeah, that means that she's here on Island,
Midoriya said. It's complicated. It took us a few hours to realize she was even here, but we're working on it.
I'm assuming that Shinso is the one that told you she was missing.
Shota asked tiredly.
I should probably lecture him about confidentiality, but I guess it's a good thing that you were aware that she was missing.
Oh, I almost forgot about Shinso,
Uraraka fretted.
He's probably so...
Shota looked at the receiver in confusion as there was a brief shout, and then he heard the phone drop and the audio became slightly muffled as Midoriya started speaking.
Uraraka, focus on me, okay? Don't think about Shinso or anyone else. Just focus on me and Mei and where we are right... And she's gone.
Mei.
Already on it!
There was a sound of shuffling as the phone was picked up, and Shota looked to the others in confusion and worry.
What did Midoriya mean she's gone? Sorry. I really didn't think that she had enough energy for that already,
Midoriya said finally.
But, good news. Uraraka is back in Japan, and we'll send Shinso to her location so that he can go pick her up. She's back in Japan?
All Might stuttered.
Young Midoriya, that's at least a 5-hour journey.
Midoriya sighed.
Not really. Do you want the short explanation or the long one?
Netsu took the phone. I believe any explanation will do at the moment, Midoriya. Thank you. That made Midoriya chuckle.
I guess that's true. Well, basically, I should start by saying that Uraraka does not have a gravity cancellation quirk like we thought. Her quirk,
which I think got a lot stronger recently for some reason, is actually some sort of gravity manipulation. And since, according to theory of relativity, gravity is basically just bends in space-time, then, well...
Uraraka can use gravity manipulation to warp!
Mei finished. She uses people as her anchors. Most likely people that she's already used her quirk on, Midori interrupted. Otherwise, she would have teleported to you, Eraserhead.
Yeah, that.
Mei agreed.
But she can't control it yet, which is why we fitted her with a tracker. She's across town from Gunhead's agency, and I'm sending her a location to Shinso now.
She probably will be a little worse for wear when he finds her, Midori added. The warp here knocked her out for over 2 hours. Let us know if you have any questions, though.
Good luck!
Mei hung up, leaving a room full of shocked adults to process whatever that had been.
Well,
All Might cleared his throat awkwardly.
at least it wasn't villains.
As always, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to leave a like or comment down below. I always love hearing from you, and make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with whenever I post. And to remember to hydrate, not dehydrate, and to love yourself.